All right, welcome back. This is our step 2 video. Hopefully you had some fun drawing some trees. On mine, I have 4 different tree drawings. So you can kind of click through and see the different styles, different trees. Those are all in separate layers. And then remember, layer 1 is our circle, okay? So next up, we want to go through and add some grid. So if I go back down to this example, you can see how in the background we have this grid laid in, and that's going to give us the opportunity to add those tiles of color, okay? Now if you click on this, you can see I have a ton of different trees on this one, and then down here at the bottom is my colorful grid layer, and that was the original circle layer, okay? So on that one that we've been working on, let's go back up to it. I want to go ahead and just for this, I'm going to turn the tree off, and then I want to come down and click on the circle layer. Okay, so that's this circle layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a really cool brush that's going to literally draw a grid on top. Okay, there's a couple tricks with this though. So if I go to my, obviously I want to use black. If I go to my brushes, you're going to go where one that says textures, I believe. And in that brush pack, you're going to find one that's labeled grid. And this is essentially going to paint a grid with your brush, okay? You can change the size of your grid. So if you want a really thick grid, you can do bigger squares. You can make it really small, and you can do a really tight small grid. That's going to be a lot more work because you're literally going to be coloring square by square. So you decide the workload that you want. I'm going to go about that thickness. And the one tricky part with this, once you start painting your grid, if I pick my finger up and I start again, you can see how there's a double grid now. That's not going to work. So when you start painting your grid, you have to fill the whole page before you lift your finger. I recommend starting at the corner up at the top, and you're literally just going to go like painting a wall. You're just going to go back and forth all the way down, filling that whole canvas with this grid. And remember, you're on the circle layer. I'm gonna, without picking my finger up, I'm gonna go back up and just make sure I don't have any areas that I missed. And then once I'm pretty confident I covered everything, then I can pick up my finger, okay? So that's on this same layer as the circle. Show you that again. Start, paint. I'm doing this all in one movement, not picking up my finger until I'm done. Oh. Even if I move my iPad. Filling it all in. Oh, see, I jumped and it doubled it. If that happens, just hit undo, try again. That's the benefit of doing this on your iPad, is you can easily just undo it and try it again. There we go. Okay, so that's all on there. That was on my circle layer. So now I can start coloring squares. Color scheme. Inside the circle, I would recommend choosing either warm or cool color scheme. So if I do inside the circle, if I do warm, I'm going to color inside the circle with those squares and grid. I'm going to color with yellows and oranges and reds. And then that would mean on the outside of the circle, I'm going to use greens, blues, and purples. You can flip it. If you want to do cool inside, warm outside, that's up to you. But essentially, once you decide, you are going to select a color. Right now, I'm still on black, so I'm going to drag up here to the bright color, and I'm going to just start with this orange, okay? Then I literally am just going to click the circle up here and drag, well, let's try that again. It reset it to black. Click and drag it and drop it into a square. And you are just going to literally color a handful of squares with this color. If I accidentally drop it on the grid line, let's see if I can do that. If I accidentally drop it on the grid line, you can see how it's gonna color the grid that color. So you don't wanna do that. You wanna make sure the grid stays black. So I'm just gonna color a bunch with this orange, just kind of making it random, and then I'm gonna click and I can just drag this to a little bit lighter orange, and I'm gonna keep filling squares. Square by square. Those two are right next to each other. I wanna try and avoid that, so I'm gonna undo and drop it a little bit further away. Okay, this is kind of like the art therapy time when you can just kind of sit here, don't worry about any of the stressors in your life. You can just kind of sit and color squares. Oh. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just color away your worries. Okay, so this might, oh, see, I didn't drop it, and I painted, and I was still on the grid brush. So it painted a brush grid pattern. Okay, so I wanna undo that. Maybe I'm actually gonna go back to like inking. That way if I do accidentally make a mark, it's not a big grid mark. So now if I accidentally make a mark, I can see it a little bit easier. But I'm just gonna keep coloring and then switch to a different one. Maybe I'll go more red now. If I want, I can even drag inside here and I can do a darker color. I can also drag it to a lighter version. I can do like a grayish red or a pink. So you can have a lot of freedom with the color choice, okay? So you're gonna fill that whole circle in with the warm colors, and then on the outside, you're gonna fill with the cool colors, or flip if you want. The cool part is, that's all on this one layer. So once I'm done, I can actually turn one of my trees back on and it's going to finish it off, okay? So that's your work for today, or for this video. Make your grid, make sure it's on the same layer as your circle, and then start coloring squares, okay? You'll have one more video after this one, a third video. It's gonna kind of show you some cool options with some filters that we can do once it's all colored. And then obviously remind you how to save and share that with me back to Schoology. All right, have some fun and email me if you have any questions, but enjoy your art time. All right, thanks.